All right, this is going to be part 3 of answering the question dependency, viability, consciousness from college students. We've done part 1 on dependency, part 2 on viability, part 3 on consciousness to cover just some basic ground to start off. We made the case from the beginning, or made the claim or the observation that dependency, viability, and consciousness are all degreed things. We have them or possess them in our lives by degrees. We are more or less dependent, but we're always dependent at some level. We are more or less conscious, but always conscious at some level after a certain threshold is passed. Viability, that degree is dependent on medical science. They're degreed. And when we're talking about human dignity, human value, we're talking about something that is intrinsic that we have all. I am 100% valuable, or I'm not valuable. I'm not just kind of valuable, or the kind of thing that has some value, but not all of it. I'm either intrinsically valuable or I'm not valuable at all, but it certainly isn't coming and going by degrees. So to ground it in something that exists by degrees presents a difficulty. But here's the other difficulty. We talk about consciousness. There's nothing I have ever encountered in all of my reading on this subject that is as poorly defined and understood as human consciousness. When do we become conscious? What is necessary to call a human consciousness? Is it organized cortical brain activity, which happens sometimes like 25 to 30 weeks of development? Is it after birth when we mature enough? Is it when we start to have consciousness awareness in the sense that we are aware that we exist externally from other things? When that happens, it's very difficult for us to determine. When we start to get memories? At what point do we consider ourselves fully consciously aware? The problem is you cannot ground something as important as human dignity in something you're incapable of defining. That doesn't work, particularly when a large amount of people believe that it comes well after birth, which means that things like infanticide are not morally wrong in and of themselves. There's nothing wrong with killing your newborn child if they're not consciously aware, if we're grounding it in consciousness. And almost nobody thinks that newborns are consciously aware. And I've come across this with students who started to argue with me that conscious awareness is necessary for value because that's where they ground value in other human beings. They're consciously aware, and so they have to be treated with dignity and respect. And when I say, as I did with multiple students, but one I said, put an onion and a child on the table, cut through the onion, cut through the child, are these morally the same things? As long as that child isn't consciously aware, they are forced to either say, yes, cutting up an onion and cutting up a newborn are morally the same thing, or as happens most of the time, they realize they haven't thought this through yet. That there's clearly something different between cutting up an onion and cutting up a newborn. And since newborns are not consciously aware, then conscious awareness cannot account for that sense that something wrong has happened in killing a newborn. And so the lack of conscious awareness then cannot be a blame on those who have not been born yet.